Lo Vs Paltrow. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. We have a situation of when narcissists collide. In actual fact, there's a triumvirate here, also known as a clusterfuck of narcissists. We have Ben Affleck, narcissist. See my series about him to understand why he is one. Gwyneth Paltrow. You can watch my roasts of her and also analyses of her behaviour. And, of course, she's a narcissist, but of a different type to that of Mr. Affleck. And then we have J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez, another narcissist, and of a different type to Gwyneth Paltrow. 3 narcissists, but 2 of them have collided over the third one. And it provides us with an interesting opportunity to see the dynamic that occurs between the narcissists. In my videos, When Narcissists Collide, I set out for you a variety of scenarios, both romantic, familial, but also social, where certain types of narcissists come together. In some instances, it's tempestuous. The relationship is short-lived, it's fiery. There are repeated, fiery attempts to assert control over one another. In some instances, we have what's known as narcissistic cementation, where the 2 narcissists actually combine because their narcissism recognizing that there is an advantage in doing so. It doesn't mean, of course, that it's all plain sailing. Behind the scenes, there's invariably tensions, to put it mildly. But externally, it looks like the 2 are working in tandem. But what have we got here when Jenny from the block collides with Ms. Goop? Well, the Daily Mail tells us, an article by Cara Farmer, Jennifer Lopez breaks her silence for first time since Gwyneth Paltrow's shock comments about her husband, Ben Affleck's excellent skills in the bedroom. Much to get into here then. Jennifer Lopez has broken her silence for the first time since Gwyneth Paltrow's explosive confessions about her husband, Ben Affleck's sexual prowess. Appearing on The View, the Jenny from the Block hitmaker, aged 53, spoke candidly about her husband and lauded how he raises their collective children. It's quite clear that at this juncture, Ben is in a golden period. And of course, remember that Jenny from the Block will maintain a facade, the type of narcissist that she is, so she wants to be seen as being kind. She wants to be seen as having a wonderful marriage, notwithstanding, of course, the fact that first time around, things didn't work out. She wants the world to know that her and Ben are solid, and the interloper Paltrow, bish, well, we'll read on. Speaking about her husband Ben, 50, she said, "He's an amazing dad. It brings tears to my eyes." Flattery, melodrama. "He is honestly the best dad I've ever seen. He's so involved. He teaches me about how to interact with the kids sometimes." Well, this may be true. It may not be. It might be that her narcissism is causing her to say this about Affleck for the purpose of asserting control over the audience on The View. It might be that he does a personable job as a father. Be interested to know what Jennifer Garner has to say about him, of course. She was more forthcoming with regard to identifying, although she didn't say it expressly, but identified his narcissistic behaviours. Her gushing homage to her husband came just days after Gwyneth, 50, stunned fans by comparing her 2 A-lister exes, Brad Pitt and Ben, triangulation, revealing the latter was technically better in bed, but the former edges things as the better actor. Backhanded compliment. Of course, Gwyneth states these things, showing no boundary recognition. It's not her place to be talking about her exes in this way in public. But of course she sees nothing wrong with that, but she commonly overshares. Anybody that tells you that she has a candle that smells of her vag is not somebody who's going to be shy about telling you about her relationships. Therefore, she has poor boundary recognition. She exhibits her sense of entitlement. She triangulates both the men as against one another, and triangulates the men as with regard to those listening to her passing a pronouncement. It's also a provocation to J-Lo, because J-Lo's narcissism would say, "Who do you think you are to talk about my husband? Who do you think you are to assess his prowess in bed?" And she will not like it. Paltrow dated Brad from 1994, but they broke off their engagement in 1997 because at age 24 she felt she was too young for marriage. She went on to have a 3-year relationship with Ben, who married Jennifer last year. In the wake of Gwyneth's comments, Jennifer opted to discuss his abilities as a father instead of giving a nod to his sexual abilities. Here, of course, what she's doing is maintaining a facade as if to say, I'm not going to be as tacky as Paltrow, talking about how he waves his willy around. No. Instead, I'm going to nullify that threat to control subconsciously by not talking about his sexual abilities and instead talking about his abilities as a father. Now, some of you might think, is she devaluing him in a sense by saying, not going to talk about how good he is in the sack? No, she isn't, because in paying homage to his supposed fathering abilities and praising him, it's clear that he's enjoying a golden period. And therefore the omission of talking about his sexual abilities is also part of that golden period, namely, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to expose that intimate aspect. Remember, in other instances, she could well readily do so. But here, she wants to cock a snook at Paltrow, basically say, you're tacky. You're always talking about your lady bits and sticking eggs up there and all that kind of jazz. I'm not going to do that, and instead, he's mine. He belongs to me, and I'm going to praise his parental abilities. Jennifer and Ben combined their families after tying the knot last year. She has 15-year-old twins, Emmy and Max, with her ex-husband Mark Anthony, while Ben has Violet, 17, Serafina, 14, Samuel, 11, from his marriage to Jennifer Garner. Branding him present, loving dad who cares, assertion of control through flattery, positive fuel, Jennifer said, he's an amazing dad. He brings tears to my eyes. He's honestly the best dad I've ever seen. He's so involved. He teaches me about how to interact with the kids sometimes. He's just so in tune. He's such a brilliant guy anyway. Like, he's so learned in so many things. And you can just tell when he's had his kids, he read every book and everything you could possibly learn about children, and he applies it. He is present, and that's all you can ask for, is a present and loving dad who cares and who shows up every single day. And that's who he is. So, of course, flattery from her to assert control over him and to nullify the threat to control posed by Gwyneth Paltrow with her observations. Earlier in the week, Gwyneth was put on the spot in a podcast interview with Alex Cooper called Call Her Daddy. Giving a series of frank answers, Gwyneth answered who was best in the bedroom, saying, that's really hard, because Brad was like the major chemistry love of your life at the time, and then Ben was like technically excellent. I can't believe my daughter's listening to this. Well, of course, you don't actually need to answer the question, but you feel that you need to, because of course you lack boundary recognition. Asked who she regarded as the better actor of the two, she said, they're both so talented, and Ben is a great writer and director. But I guess I would probably have to say acting alone, Brad, because if you think of all the different roles that he's done, triangulation, flattery of Brad Pitt. Aside from the cheeky comments, Jennifer said it had been difficult watching her children starting to individuate themselves from her. What, of course, there is she's subconsciously demonstrating the way that they are little mirrors, that they are, of course, seen as extensions of herself, although she doesn't realise that. She said, I'm experiencing that. We all experience it for the first time with our own kids. And you're just like, oh, this is what she was talking about. This is the time where your kids don't want to talk to you and they kind of inviduate from you. And it's all necessary. And intellectually, I understand it. But my heart, fake emotional empathy. Outside of her life at home, Jennifer's film career has continued thriving. She will star in the upcoming film The Mother, set for release on Netflix. The action film sees Jennifer play an assassin determined to do anything to keep her young daughter safe. The role required lots of combat scenes, and Jennifer stepped up to the challenge with plenty of training. That was one of those ones where you really have to train a lot, where you really have to do the fight training and you have to do the sniper training. It was a lot of fun, but there's a lot of work, she said. While Jennifer, who's now in her early 50s, wishes she would have gotten more of those kind of roles when she was a little younger, she still says it was an empowering experience. And it's funny, I wish I would have gotten a lot of these types of roles that I'm getting now, funnily enough, when I was a little bit more, spry. A little bit younger, let's just say it. And it's exciting to be able to do it now. I think for me, it's really kind of empowering and makes me feel strong and good. The Jenny from the Block singer described how her background in dance helped her pick up the fight routines. It was regular fight training, but it was choreographed. You have to be efficient. I can't be fighting 8 hours a day. After an hour, I'm like, okay. So they had to be real efficient, and we choreographed almost like a dance, which is good for me since I'm a dancer. So I can kind of do it step by step, and I just learn it from there. Espousing, of course, her somatic abilities in terms of talking about being a dancer, and, of course, the way that she looks and the training that she has done. But here was an opportunity for her to nullify the threat to control that was posed by Gwyneth Paltrow talking about her husband. Remember, Ben Affleck is deemed by Jennifer Lopez subconsciously as her possession. And for another woman to talk about him, and for another woman to talk about him sexually, notwithstanding the fact that she was flattering him, is a threat to J-Lo's control. And therefore it's necessary for her to respond by nullifying that threat to control by suggesting I'm not going to talk about anything so tawdry as sex, and instead I'm going to praise his fathering abilities instead, because, of course, he's in a golden period. Paltrow is painted black. She doesn't, of course, mention Paltrow directly. A narcissist of her type doesn't necessarily need to engage in that. But the fact that she praises Affleck is also being done to assert control over Gwyneth Paltrow by nullifying the threat to control posed by her earlier comments. So a short-lived spat, if you will, between J-Lo and Gwyneth Paltrow, where neither directly addresses the other, neither is horrible to the other, but understand that Paltrow feels entitled to talk about Affleck in the way that she does, because subconsciously she still owns him, although she's not in a relationship with him. And J-Lo, of course, does not like the fact that her possession is being spoken about by somebody else, and her narcissism reacts in the way that it does to praise him, thus cocking a snook at Paltrow. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.